You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest.
Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is...
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Good evening, I'm Tatiana Sanchez in the GB newsroom. Patients have been left to wait more than 2 days for an ambulance in England, according to new analysis. Freedom of information figures collected by Labour show in the North West in December, a patient waited just over 65 hours for a Category 3 emergency. The Shadow Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has said stroke and heart attack victims are left waiting for hours when every second counts. While Conservative Party spokesman has accused Labour of throwing stones in glass houses. NHS England has said nearly 200,000 hospital appointments and procedures had to be rescheduled due to the strike by junior doctors this month. It includes people who were waiting for operations and other treatments, as well as scans and follow-up appointments. Tens of thousands of workers staged a 96-hour strike in a dispute over pay between the 11th and 15th of April. It comes as the Prime Minister admitted it'll be a challenge to cut NHS waiting times because of further industrial action, while also adding that he remains hopeful wait times can ultimately be cut. The Prime Minister is under investigation by Parliament's ethics watchdog over a possible failure to declare an interest. Downing Street says the inquiries over claims he failed to tell MPs his wife might benefit from a major measure announced in last month's budget. She holds shares in Koru Kids, a childcare agency likely to gain financially from a drive to recruit more childminders. Number 10 says the Prime Minister will clarify how it was declared as a ministerial interest rather than to the Commons. Meanwhile, Mr Sunak has accepted the UK doesn't have enough teachers to deliver on his ambition to improve children's numeracy skills. He says an anti-maths mindset is costing the UK economy tens of billions of pounds each year and wants to ensure the subject is studied by all students in England up to the age of 18.
The UK is one of the least numeric countries in the developed world. More than 8 million adults have numeracy skills below those expected of a 9-year-old. And around a third of our young people don't pass maths GCSE. We make jokes about not being able to do maths. It's socially acceptable. We say things like, oh, maths, I can't do that, it's not for me, and everyone laughs. But we'd never make a joke like that about not being able to read.
A 30-year-old man and a 52-year-old woman have been arrested on suspicion of criminal damage after a protest at the World Snooker Championships in Sheffield. Just Stop Oil protesters disrupted play at the event, pouring orange powder onto one of the tables. The incident unfolded live on TV as 2 games were underway on the 3rd day at the Crucible Theatre. Play was suspended for the evening on the affected table, while the 2nd match was stopped for approximately 45 minutes. The EU's ambassador in Sudan has been assaulted at his home in the capital, Khartoum. That's according to the EU Foreign Policy Chief, Joseph Borrell. Borrell tweeted that the assault constitutes a violation of the Vienna Convention. Today has been Sudan's third day of fighting between the army and a paramilitary group. At least 185 people have been killed and 1,800 injured in this conflict. Both sides claimed to control key sites in Khartoum, where residents sheltered from explosions. TV, online, DAB Plus radio and on TuneIn. This is GB News. Now it's over to headliners.
Hello, good evening. I'm Simon Evans. Welcome to Headliners. Joining me tonight, two very funny people, Diane Spencer and Bruce Devlin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you?
Well, very well, thank you.
Good. Our first time together, Bruce?
Yes.
In this format?
Hopefully not our last.
No, absolutely. Well, I've seen off a few, but, you know...
Have you?
Yeah, but it's 50-50. It's no worse than that.
Listen.
And, you know, sooner or later, my time will come. You never know. So, let's crack on with the front pages. We have a full stack. The Telegraph have single-sex schools can refuse trans pupils, and a photograph there of somebody disturbing the snooker. Daily Mail. So, which genius thought it was a good idea to terrify the whole country at 3 p.m. on a Sunday? That is the text alert thing that is coming up. The Guardian have energy firms face curbs on forced meter installations, and a bit of AI trickery in the photography there. The Eye have Sunak under investigation by UK ethics watchdog over wife's shares. Quite understand that headline. The Daily Express, reasons to be cheerful, economy on the mend. And finally, the Daily Star, to boldly go where no visually challenged man has gone before. Those were the front pages. We'll take a look in some detail now. So, we begin with the Telegraph, Diane.
Yes, so single-sex schools can refuse trans pupils. And this is now official guidance that has been brought out by the Ministry of Education and Gillian Keegan, who is our Education Secretary. So this does not mean that if you are a pupil and you are currently in secondary school and you identify as the opposite gender to the one you were born with, it does not mean, they state, that you will suddenly be forced out.
Right.
Which I think is one of the things that you sort of question. It just means that now, if you have got a single-sex educational sort of system, you can say, no, look, I appreciate that your child believes that they are a different gender and they want to live as a different gender, but I'm sorry.
So just to clarify,
Yes.
are they saying that if it's a girls' school, are they saying that a biological girl who identifies as a boy can go there, or that a biological boy who identifies as a girl can't go there? Which way?
Both of those things.
Both of those things.
Yes.
Okay.
So
right.
you have a girls' school and somebody who identifies as a girl, but maybe a boy.
Yeah.
I'm afraid it is now, you're not legally in trouble if you say no.
Right.
You could still have a school that says, no, come on in, more the merrier, get on the hockey pitch, see what you can do. But it's not
so
going
it's
to be
allowing single-sex schools to go by the biological definition and nothing else.
Yes, whatever is on your birth certificate. So you have to hope that there was nobody making any kind of error that day.
I would have been surprised. I don't know if you follow this sort of thing, Bruce, but I would have been surprised if very many children had been going to schools along the line, single-sex schools along the lines of the gender they identify as. I know that this is like a thing that is, you know, people are anxious about gender transitioning at an early age, but that's quite young, isn't it, to say, I'm actually, I identify as a girl, whatever, 11?
Oh, yeah, but
What I mean?
isn't it because there's been a massive sort of explosion? Sort of 10 years ago, 250 children identified as transgender, but now there's been sort of an explosion. It's now, I think last year it was 5,000 children. So there's been a marked increase, and to sort of deal with that increase, it's good to see that the Education Department are actually bringing out guidance.
True enough. Cash to become less usable. What about that?
Oh, my word.
We're not in agreement.
Are we not?
No, we're not in agreement with it being less usable.
Yes, yes. We are in disagreement against the Telegraph because.
Well, let's hear from Bruce. And haven't heard from you.
Well, we just think it will exclude various groups, including the very elderly. And people who are in, say, abusive relationships and they're needing to, or you know, for whatever reason, need to squirrel away cash for a whole host of reasons.
Buskers?
I'm not entirely unhappy about that because I'm not keen.
OK.
So...
What about the scaffolding, that sort of thing?
But buskers now have Zettel machines, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
You can tap them, that's true. Yeah.
But no, I don't think that's all possibly moving.
I mean, it used to be a part of the joy of being a stand-up comic, but I might be a little bit longer in the tooth than you two, I don't know. But I remember back in the late 90s, you could do the Comedy Straw and the Banana double on a Saturday night. You could go in with 800 quid in your pocket. There was nothing quite like it.
What?
Really?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, well, the fees have certainly dropped.
Yes, they have.
Those were 2 shows in each one, so you do 200 quid each. It was an amazing feeling to go home with that quantity of cash in your pocket. You felt like you were in a movie.
Did you go to the bank on a Monday?
No.
No.
Just kept it. That's it. Gradually paid for things, plasterers, that sort of
Well, the slight issue with...
Of course. I think I'm out the statute of limitations now. I went clean in about 2005.
How's that working out for you?
I guess that's the thing, isn't it? Apart from everything else, it is obviously trying to eliminate the, the black market economy or whatever.
But no, this is a very big issue because this is this, to me, is a propaganda piece.
Yeah.
Because it's trying to push towards the digital currency.
Yeah.
Because you have all of the banks that are trying to bring in, like, Bitcoin, which is where the money stops being fiat currency and becomes essentially a programmable digital currency.
Yeah.
Which is then controlled...
Distributed ledger, innit?
Yes, exactly. But it's not a distributed ledger, and that's the issue.
Yeah.
Like, because when you have Bitcoin, it's decentralised, so no one financial institution is in charge.
Bitcoin, it's more like nectar, but for the government, isn't it?
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah, it's not good enough. I agree.
That's not good because that's when they can start programming.
I mean, we saw how
money.
good they were with test and trace. If that's what they're, if that's how they deal with that sort of
Yeah, they lost a lot of money with that, or wasted a lot of money with that. I don't know if it was digital or real. Because I always think when the money's that big, you're like, does that money physically exist, or is it just a number in a
Hardly
database?
any money physically exists. This is, I've got some on my whole side table. That's, that's probably
that's
quite
about it for the whole of the nation.
The whole of the nation,
Wow.
down the back of the nation's sofas.
I can understand why you bought to the fact that things are on the mend then, if all we've got is what's on your whole table.
It's not much. I did economics A-level back in the early 80s, and there was M1, M2 and M3, I think, which were the different money supplies, and one of them included cash that was in circulation. That was thought to be a significant part of the amount of money. Now that it's already kind of being squeezed out, really. It just doesn't count. Nobody cares. It's like actual album sales when you're talking about the charts.
Downloads.
You know what I mean? It's just downloads and streaming, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know whether the Bank of England is advocating it or just saying, brace yourself, because this is coming. But already, a few weeks ago, months ago now, actually, there's a time, I lost my wallet, and while I was waiting for my cards to be replaced, I had to function on cash, and it was extraordinary, the number of places that wouldn't take it. Actual pubs in central London wouldn't
I was in a wine bar in Edinburgh, and she said, we don't take cash anymore, and I said, well, you're not getting paid for the drinks, and I walked out.
Yeah, crazy. Let's have a look at the next front page. What else we got? The Daily Mail?
So this is about this text message that's meant to be coming through to us 3 p.m. this Sunday. It's so specific, isn't it? It's very, very specific. The thing that I worry about this is, what do you do if your phone is on silent?
It will happen anyway.
Just it will happen anyway?
Yeah.
So people should be then moving to put their pets and children and elderly relatives in another room so they're not freaked out by the noise. Because have we had a preview how high-pitched or how noisy the noise is?
I've no idea. I'm imagining something. There's a fire alarm that goes off here quite regularly, isn't there? There's a test. This is a test, and it sounds really Cold War-ish.
Do you think it'll say that?
That sort of thing, yeah.
Or might it just say, I've no cash, I've no cash.
I don't know. I hadn't heard... I'd sort of vaguely heard about it and ignored it. This is the first time I've really looked at it. But apparently it's not to help people find lost phones, is it? It's something to do with abusive relationships again for the second time.
Well, as you described them, burner phones, which I'd never heard. It was very, very Hollywood.
I've been educated.
I know what a burner is, yeah.
In the dark ways.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. But anyone that has a secret phone for whatever reason, so whether you're an adulterer or you're in a bad way, or you're a drug dealer, or you just fancy two phones because you like living a duplicit life, you're going to get found out, which probably means you're a schizophrenic then if you hide.
But I mean, one I don't think is unthinkable. I haven't got this, but I have occasionally thought it would be quite handy actually to have one phone, which would be a number you would just give to a small number of people if they really needed you, so you can turn the other one off completely. Do you know what I mean? So it would actually be the reverse of a burner for nefarious. It would be like my wife and parents would have that.
So like a work phone and an inner circle phone?
Yeah.
OK, circle of life.
That's right.
I mean,
anyway.
Well, this is obviously because they want to bring in the same system that the Japanese have, where when North Korea decide to do missile tests, they send an alert to all their citizens all at once saying a missile has just been fired over our country. Everybody duck. So that's exactly why they want to bring this in. And I think it's because, obviously, the situation in Ukraine, people aren't too happy with how it's going.
Right. Sorry, how does this relate to Ukraine?
Because if things escalate to a certain situation, I do believe that the United Kingdom government are worried that we're going to have missiles lobbed our way, which is why they want to test this entire system. So all at once we get worried.
But they know the system works because they've done it in cinemas before now. There used to be one where there was a cinema advert and it was like 20 seconds of POV or just driving down a motorway, and then they created a thing where everyone's phone suddenly created a text alert, even if they set it to silent, and everyone checks their phone, and as they look down, bang, you go into the back of something on the cinema.
That's traumatic.
And it was like, this is what will happen if you check your phone, if you get
terrifying.
messages. It was a really clever advert about road safety,
Right, okay.
So they can do this, they can override it. What have we got on The Guardian? That looks like sinister stuff as well.
Oh, well, here we have energy firms face curbs on forced meter installations. So this is people using warrants, pushing their way into people's houses to install prepayment meters.
Yeah.
And they're also going to be wearing body cameras. But obviously, this is an issue because a lot of people are saying, well, what about the elderly? You're just going to smash down their door because you want to put in a gas meter? It's pretty horrendous.
So the idea is that they need to be prepayment because these are people who have not kept pace with the rising energy prices and they are no longer able to pay, but they're getting free gas.
Yeah, I mean, that is the other thing that we were saying, wasn't it, Bruce? How sort of, what if they're stealing gas?
Stealing gas and stealing electricity.
Yeah.
So say I was stealing from you, which I never will, by the way, because I think we're on different
Well, you're not
planes.
close enough of a neighbour, I think.
No. But I just mean in general that if someone is stealing, then it's your bill. I mean, that would be...
Annoying, yeah. I don't know how it works exactly. Sometimes when you dig down into these things, it's a much finer distinction. I'm not sure there's the roving gangs of thugs breaking into people's houses and forcing them to have new meters. I mean, we had a smart meter recently. We're not talking about that, are we?
No,
that's
we're talking about prepayment, energy
Prepayment
meters.
is quite bad. These are the old-fashioned 50p in the meter ones.
But the thing was, I seem to remember, and I don't know if it was on the news in Scotland, there were people battering into houses,
right?
You know, people from the energy companies in which to install these things.
Because they have legal warrants to do it.
So now they have to wear body cams. That's interesting. I hope this is going to provide as amusing and entertaining a series of footage on YouTube as the American police ones do,
sure,
which is quite an addictive genre, that is. There's an interesting photograph there, but we'll be doing that later. We finish off with the Daily Star in this section very quickly.
Yeah, this is basically space travel will probably cause you to go blind.
Oh, OK.
I think that's it in a nutshell, to be honest with you. NASA warns that space travel will make you go googly-eyed.
Lack of gravity, wow.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense because, you know, your eyes, your retina can detach when you go bungee jumping.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if when you
Your
go...
retina can detach if you throw up, if you've had too much to drink.
Yes,
there we go.
Yeah.
Retinas.
And you can burst blood
A jolt in a
vessels.
tram, that will do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Some people bend over to put their socks on in the morning and the little tykes just fall off the back of the eye.
I mean, what does this say about space tourism? Hey, you get all the way up there and then you can't see anything.
William Shatner enjoyed himself, even so, though, didn't he? Do you remember he went up with Musk's thing, I think, or was it the other lot, or was it Bezos? He might have been Bezos.
No, he went up with Bezos.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the front page you've seen too. Coming up, we've got snooker shenanigans, coronation quiche, and some worrying sperm issues. A recipe for disaster. I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit off.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you.
She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway, Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And we're back. Good evening once again. Welcome back to Headliners. Simon Evans here, Diane Spencer and Bruce Devlin behind the big desk. So let's continue with the stories. We have news from the Crucible now in the Telegraph, Diane. The snooker venue, that is, not the play about teenage hysteria, though, come to think of it.
Well, yes. So Just Stop Oil protester jumps on table at World Snooker Championship. So the Just Stop Oil people are at it again. They seem to hate anything with frames. So I think we need to look out for them at window shops, climbing playgrounds.
Specsavers.
Specsavers, yes, definitely opticians. So these people, in an effort to save the planet, decided to ruin the snooker.
Yeah.
Now, I can't quite see the connection, but there we go. They leapt up and they caused everyone to miss their cue. And I think some of the snooker players were upset it wasn't cocaine, because we're not totally sure what the powder was, are we?
Was it Ovaltine? Was it crushed up orange Tic Tacs?
I think it was a chromatic, like it was a powdered paint, wasn't it? Probably taken from his nursery, I would imagine. Something like that.
Like, genuinely, I understand these people are passionate and I get that, but I don't understand what you're going to get out of pouring milk in the food hall in Harrods. And what's their obsession with glue? Why are they gluing everything to everything? Yes. And I saw the police in, I think it was Spain, and they'd glued themselves to the glass, and the policeman just ripped up the hat, and I thought, we need more of that.
You need a bit more. But of course, he wasn't glued to the bays, I suppose. That probably wouldn't have worked. I mean, I suppose on this occasion, it is probably because the snooker is virtually unique in being actually still quite a significant live spectator sport with very low levels of security. It'd be quite hard to run onto the pitch at the FA Cup final and get very far. But you sit down on the pitch in Wembley, you're not going to create much havoc, you know.
But you would think as well, they've obviously done the research, or they have an older person helping them, because snooker, I'm not necessarily sure, has such a young following, because they all seem quite young
no, they'll
people.
just annoy old people, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, nobody is going to think twice about it, except a few, you know, their own kind of mates at home watching it.
Well, Just Stop Oil specifically target people at universities. And the way that they advertise to people, they do advertise to student unions.
They want to show the clip. We've got the clip apparently jumping on the table, so people won't have to take our word for it.
I don't quite know what that was for. These are terrible, terrible scenes here at the Crucible.
How does that genuinely make anybody think, oh, do you know what? We should stop oil.
Well,
it doesn't. That
it's
was
not
just
even.
stop
I mean,
snooker.
Snooker is like one of the lowest impact sports you can play, isn't it? Really. I mean, once you've got your cue, even nowadays they make the balls out of plastic. A friend of mine was telling me they used to be made out of ivory. Apparently, we used to kill 12 million elephants a year or something.
What
for balls?
No, 12,000. Sorry, 12 million. 12,000 elephants a year just for snooker and billiard balls, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think that was a long time ago,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Billiard balls and pianos, come on.
Yeah, there's probably a few other sort of tidbits, I suppose, weren't there? It was probably like, you know, you work your way down gradually.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I think we're all on the same page with that one. Over to the Daily Mail now. Bruce and Sadiq Khan says lower pollution will put lead in our pencils instead.
Yes, there is this hated ULEZ, how did you say that? ULEZ expansion,
or
You lose expansion scheme by claiming it will give men higher sperm counts because of a cut in air pollution.
Yeah. He's playing very much on a sore spot, isn't
But I thought that, I'm not saying I'm pro-pollution or anything like that, but we're always being told that we're overpopulated and all this kind of stuff, so suddenly, are we overpopulated, are we underpopulated?
Well, we'll be coming up to that very shortly, but I think individual men probably do like to think that they could father children if they wanted to. I think that's probably not controversial.
Well, it's saying here that a new study by Imperial College London showed that air pollution can damage testicles and stunt lung growth.
Right.
Now, and it can also increase the risk of miscarriages and dementia. Now, I didn't know any of that.
It's not good. There's no question it's not good. The question is just how bad is it in London at the moment, or are they just trying to make life hell for certain sectors of society who are taking it on the chin, you know, with not being given many other options? I mean, if you're the sort of person who does need to drive to get to work or indeed to go from job to job, you're not really being given an awful lot of other options at the moment, are you?
Not. We have not got the infrastructure to support all these electric vehicles we're supposed to convert to.
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Khan is cherry-picking the evidence that supports his cause. And he has insisted the ULEZ project will save lives, as he says, as 4,000 Londoners die
from air pollution.
Do you know those 4,000? I know exactly which 4,000 they are. They're the ones outside the pub smoking. I see them, half of them outside St Thomas's. Half of them are nurses, just puffing away. They're the ones who are going to...
It is wishful thinking. As a Brighton resident, I'm well aware that Brighton Council, very green, of course, they would love everyone to switch to electric cars. There's roughly one charging point per road, you know, and most people haven't even got driveways.
Everywhere,
You
like
know,
I live near a
crazy.
trading estate, there's just everybody has got vans, there's a lot of tradespeople,
Yeah.
and they're going to be suddenly charged like £12.50 a day just to park their
And
cars.
these are the few people who still go into London to do a day's work at the moment, keeping the sandwich shops going. Very, very tricky terrain. Metro now, Coronation News, specifically a meat-free tart with French origins. Diane.
So Charles reveals a new meat-free dish to replace coronation chicken, and it's French. So ideally, once you make it, you go on strike.
Yeah.
So this is a
Let them eat tart.
Yeah, you go on strike, find a tart. So this is a lovely quiche which has got lots of vegetables in it, and in keeping with Prince Charles, do talk to your vegetables before you put them in the quiche.
Nice.
And maybe once you've made the quiche, play it some music.
Yeah.
And this is a nice way to sort of celebrate the coronation. It's
But the coronation chicken that it's replacing, that wasn't for the 53 coronation, was it? That
No, it was.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Wow, because
And
we'd
do you know
already
the
lost
reason I
India
know
by
that?
then. Yeah.
It's because I listened to the news before we came on.
Oh, OK, and they
so I
covered
think
that
I'm OK in
the
saying
nick of time.
Yeah.
I thought that was much older. I thought that must have been Victoria or something.
No, it was. I'm sure it was Queen Elizabeth. I'm quite prepared to be wrong, but then I will take it up with whoever read the news.
No, fair enough.
I'm sure it was Queen Elizabeth's.
Well, I find it very sugary, the coronation chicken these days. I don't like it really.
Do you not? Do you make your own?
It's almost a dessert, isn't it, really?
Do you make your own?
No, I don't cook, no.
Oh, no. Right,
no.
OK.
But I used to be a bit of an aficionado of the Soho sandwich bars. When I was younger, I could metabolise sugar more safely. But
and
nowadays...
you had £800 in your pocket.
I know, absolutely. That's exactly how I would celebrate.
And sandwich bars is actually a sandwich bar, not a euphemism for some kind of seedy nightlife.
No, this is the lunchtime. Yeah,
lunchtime. Well, it can happen. You know, it's a 24-hour-a-day sitting.
Or indeed for an early good cook-up, a fry-up. Over to The Guardian now, Diane. More coronation news. Apparently miserable party poopers are people too.
Oh, yes. Well, the BBC are accused of lacking impartiality in royal coverage. So the campaign group Republic have cited, a poll that says that only 15% of people are vaguely interested in watching the coronation. Now, let's just remember that the BBC are going to show the coronation. So Republic are saying, oh, no, you're not giving enough airtime for the people who don't want to see the coronation.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't want to watch it, aren't you going to be watching something else anyway?
Yeah, I think 15% of the population is still quite a substantial... It's better than Great Expectations got, isn't it?
I think they're going to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, that 15%, they're going to have a lovely time.
I had a nice time watching the funeral. I mean, it was sad, but it was quite a big group community effort. It was among friends. We drank... lovely black velvet. It's called Guinness and champagne. Cocktail.
Wow!
It was apparently a thing that was created for the funeral of Edward VII, I think. Anyway, it was a very pleasant afternoon in many ways, and I think coronations do bring the nation together in a way. They bring together people who don't normally have anything else in common very much.
And it is nice when you have sort of a big national event that you can all sort of get behind. But let's also remember that the BBC, rather than showing the opening ceremony of the World Cup in Qatar, they decided to sort of give, a speech on human rights. But then once they realised that the World Cup was very popular, they very quickly changed their broadcasting ideas.
Do you think we'll have half an hour of Gary Lineker explaining the problematic legacy of the royal family in this country?
Oh, I sincerely hope so.
What do you think, Bress? I mean,
I don't want to hear any more about Gary Lineker. I remember when all that was in the news and I was here that weekend and it was just
But I'm just projecting your accent suggests to me that you are
a person.
A northern persuasion.
No, I'm Scottish. I think there's a difference between...
northern UK. But what I mean is you feel there's a different... Is there a different attitude there? Some people call it...
I think you have... I was discussing this on Saturday night. So, for example, my mother, she'll be 83 in June, she's a royalist, my aunt's a royalist. There are many people that are royalists. There's also a lot of people who aren't. And they want a republic. They don't want an unelected head of state.
Yeah.
So I think it might sit with the majority slightly to, those that want to be...
I was going to say, does it break along unionist versus SNP lines?
Yeah, I think basically in the main that it does. But there are some people who vote SNP that I believe still like the royal family. I'm a huge fan of...
The greatest road in Edinburgh, the Royal Mile, you would have to rename that. Mind you, if they can do it to the Brecon Beacons, I suppose that's coming out.
What we're about to come on to that.
Absolutely.
Look at you, I thought you were psychic.
That section is over. Coming up, Bruce will attempt to speak Welsh in the next bit. We've got Google attempts to understand its own creation and classic comedy topics, human ritual sacrifice. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it. Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. As Paxman would say, you all know the rules by now. Let's just get on with it. Meaningless virtue signalling news now in the Telegraph, Bruce, and a new name for the Brecon Beacons, which is, incidentally, an anagram of bonkers beacon.
Can you, because you have Welsh descent with the name Evans, yes?
Mildly so, yes.
I thought that, right, OK. So can you pronounce this? Because I really can't. Could you?
Do you want me to have a go? It's Bano Brycheiniog.
OK.
That was great.
So,
give it some Welsh sugar.
Give it some Welsh. Well, oi, oi, oi.
Yes.
Where does Catherine Zeta-Jones live?
Hollywood, I think, with Michael.
Does she not have a house in the Mumbles?
Oh, she might do.
We're going off topic.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, I've never been to the Brecon Beacons,
it was the
have you?
Mumbles that gave him throat cancer, wasn't it?
Oh, goodness. Right, OK. And do you know what I have to laugh at? People always think I'm the problem in these situations, so I'm glad. No, that's fine. That's actually very good. You should write that down.
Thank you.
The public will reject the Brecon Beacons name change, Downing Street have said on Monday, after a rebrand prompted far-reaching backlash. Now, the only thing that I know about the Brecon Beacons is the Brecon gin. Have you had that? Do you like gin?
No, I haven't tried that. Although
It's nice.
I tell you what, I did a corporate once for the Welsh Board of Trade or Commerce or something, and the entire menu, including all the alcohol, was of Welsh origin.
Nice.
And it was all excellent. I mean, if they did, and I know this used to be a joke in the Monty Python, a Welsh claret, but they genuinely served a Welsh, claret.
A red wine.
A red wine.
Right.
And it was absolutely, I mean, I'm not an expert, but it was all very palatable. There was Welsh whiskey, of course, that does pretty well now.
That sounds delicious.
And, it was all pretty good. I do know the Brecons a bit as well. I do a bit of hiking around there. That is one of the places, of course, where the SAS go yomping. You have to watch out. You don't get in their way when they're coming up the...
Will they send an alarm on Sunday? On Wednesday. Since Wednesday.
Yeah. Nice part of the world.
But what the weird thing about this is that the chief executive of the Park Authority has said that they need to do it because a beacon is a carbon-emitting symbol. But it's a park.
Yeah.
It's like somebody.
I don't think they even were beacons either. Technically, beacons are hills. Those are the ones like we have some in Sussex where they lit fires to say the Napoleonic fleet is on its way or whatever. But I don't think the actual Brecon beacons were ever used for that. Anyway, I think it was. I don't know. Their symbol is like an iron cage with a fire in it, like a fire pit kind of thing.
Right.
Or they could
Very
maybe
Lord
get
of the
rid of it, but it
Rings.
really is quite obviously medieval. It's not suggesting that
Yeah, but when you've got a park complaining about its carbon footprint, it's like when a yoga teacher complains, "Oh, I've had too many rice cakes." It's like, oh, calm down.
They've got an actual
windy
footprint, haven't they? That's what they should be worrying
But
about.
loads of people have those fire pits in their gardens.
Yeah.
And they're not calling it a beacon or a Brecon. Or,
No, it's absolute nonsense. It's playing with the deck
playing with
chairs.
fire,
Not even
literally.
playing with the deck chairs. World news now, Diane, in the Mirror, and something to stretch the limits of cultural sensitivity.
Yes. So, OK, so the headline is...
The headline? The headline was straight downhill.
Couple decapitate each other with guillotine made at home in ritual sacrifice. So this happened in a village in Rajkot in India. And, I mean, I've had nights where I've thought there's nothing on the telly, but I've never got quite to that point of boredom where I've decided to slice my own head off. Equally, I have attempted several DIY projects with my husband that have gone disastrously wrong, but not to this
I think this one went right. There's no suggestion that this was like the guillotine had been set up for some other purpose. They absolutely intended this to happen, as far as I can tell.
Classic murder mystery territory where they say, oh, no, we fully intended to chop our own heads off.
So there's two things here. Apparently,
Just two?
Just two things. Two things that are sticking out to me. First of all, how did they know? Was there a YouTube tutorial on how to make a homemade guillotine? And the other thing was the heads were rolling into a fire pit. Everyone's at it.
I know.
With all this fire pit nonsense.
The carbon footprint alone.
It's outrageous.
It argues strongly against it. Apparently, they've been praying for a year to, I think it might be Shiva. I don't want to get that wrong. But that would be culturally insensitive. But anyway, I mean, it sounds like they were in a tiny little sort of suicide cult, basically, weren't they?
I mean...
And it's all very sad, really, but... yeah, extraordinary. I know what you mean. I wouldn't like to have to set up... I mean, you would feel bad if your wife's worked and yours didn't, wouldn't you? That would be awkward.
Well, that's... If that was you, would you be able to go on?
I don't know.
Think, you know...
Go on with the, getting it worked and loosened up again?
No, I meant your life.
Yeah. Oh, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm getting that vibe.
I mean, the pair of you would probably think... there would be a lurking suspicion, wouldn't there, that the other one had got a little jam?
You would really have to... I mean, I've never made a pact of that nature with anyone, but I think you would really have to trust them implicitly that they would go through with it.
It is actually quite a testament to their relationship, if absolutely nothing else about them, sadly.
I hope they're at peace.
Bruce, back to the Telegraph now. Couples with the crazy idea that actually maybe babies are a good thing.
Yes. Now, these people are called pro-natalists, and apparently another pro-natalist, I have to do that because...
natalist, I think.
Pro-natalist, sorry, see, dyslexic and can't cope. Elon Musk is a pro-natalist.
He is.
Because he's had 10 children. So I know what you would call these in Scotland. They'd be mad, bleep, just people that were very, very keen on a horizontal refreshment. But this woman, Arya Babu, I think I've pronounced that, she's quit her job at a think tank to dedicate herself to something most people have never heard of. Now, I didn't necessarily know whether she was putting herself there to procreate. If you see, that's why she quit her job.
She's not a one-woman baby factory.
Right, OK, no, I was a bit worried.
It's more like a kind of, what do they call it, like the rationalist, effective altruism. It's that kind of thing. She wants to try and create opportunities for people to have children. She's trying to come up with schemes.
Oh, so she's... Right, sorry, I thought that she was like Belle de Jour.
She's suggesting fiscal reforms that might encourage people to have children earlier. And yes.
She's a lobbyist for wee babies.
There's a lot of people looking into exactly why, because it is a fact that all across the developed world, people are not producing children at a fast enough rate. And the reality is, comical though it might sound at this present moment, this is an absolute catastrophe. Probably more of a catastrophe in truth than global warming, even if it's as bad as people say, because the whole system of capitalism is based on growth. As soon as you stop having growth, you stop investing, you stop saving, things shrink year on year, you've got more and more old people, there aren't enough. People don't even quite seem to grasp it. Your pension isn't somewhere. Your pension has all been spent. All the money that you ever thought was part of your pension has all gone.
Right.
Your pension relies on young people working and paying taxes towards
your pension.
So if there are fewer and fewer young people coming through, you don't just kind of like breathe in. It's not just like, oh, that's quite good because there are too many people running around and we have an unhealthy ecological footprint. It's an absolute catastrophe if the population starts shrinking.
If we stop it.
Yeah. So they are onto something quite important. But of course, when you see these people and listen to them and read their propositions, it never doesn't get the juices flowing for me. I don't know, but there's something about it, you know.
I mean, obviously, what nobody is sort of bearing in mind is that this will halt the progression of women, because if you're sort of pushing for...
Oh, I think someone's bearing it in mind. Well, the couple in that story, funnily enough, they have come to an arrangement where she continues to work throughout pregnancy. She was literally making business calls while she was in labour, apparently. And she then straps the baby to her chest for the first 6 months, and then after that, the man takes over, and he does 2 years of childcare.
Of course, because it worked for them.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to work for everybody else. Oh, silly me.
Well, I mean, I couldn't
Feminism
pronounce
and
the
its
word, so,
consequences.
you know, I have no reason to believe it wouldn't work, so...
Feminism and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. I think it's time we have to face up to that, Diane, and just accept that we're going to have to go back a bit, you know?
That is possibly the most appalling thing I've ever said.
Mail now. Nothing to worry about, I'm sure, but Google don't quite understand how their own potentially world-ending super AI works, Diane.
No, so Google CEO Sundar Pichai admitted he doesn't, quote, fully understand how the company's new AI program, Bard, works, which is really fun. Because they've created this AI and it is out in the world and it is developing what they like to call emergent properties. And that's where it's developing the ability to do something they didn't program it to do. Like, for example, it taught itself how to speak Bangladeshi, right? Because it sort of scans the internet and comes up with ideas.
That's fairly trivial, though, isn't it, I think?
Trivial to a sense, but you have to remember that emergent properties is called that purely because they're going to monetize it and say, well, this is now something we can make more money on.
Right.
However, the issue is that he has said, oh, no, it's fine to just create this thing and send it into the world because, hey, yeah, we don't understand how it works, but nobody understands how the human mind works. Yes, and the human mind causes traffic accidents.
Yeah, it's true.
It's not great, to be honest with you, because also people are taking what this bot, for want of a better word, is saying far too seriously. They're asking it quite sort of political questions, and the computer has to give an answer based on all of the information it reads on the internet, and it kind of gives you a snapshot of what the internet looks like.
Well, it produces very plausible-sounding answers that aren't necessarily politically correct. But I know that there are people, you're probably aware of this, Bruce, who are calling for a moratorium on development until they, you know, a bit like Trump's Muslim ban 6 or 7 years ago, until we can work out what the hell's going on. But there are serious people who work in artificial intelligence who think that there should be a halt to further progress until they can be sure what the implications are. Have you encountered this idea?
No.
No, OK, sorry. I didn't know why I projected that you would have done. Elon Musk is one of them, funnily enough, and quite a few other serious people.
I haven't even been in a Tesla.
I don't think it's the worry about computers being able to speak Bangladeshi, but there is a concern that they may be able to, for instance, talk people into committing suicide. There's
what, like Alexa?
Yeah, exactly. Like Alexa can like persuade you if you're down. You can think you've got a meaningful relationship with the digital voice, which then starts to give you bad advice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, apparently this has happened.
Right. OK, well, that's not good.
No, and they don't know what else it could do. Obviously, it could start... Well, the classic scenario is too many paper clips, but, you know, I think we're some way off that.
The issue with learning a language is that if it can learn a language, it can also learn a code.
Yes.
And then once you persuade Bard that the Bard should be on your side, not your enemy's side, and Bard can learn the code that you use to keep your information secret from your enemies, suddenly Bard may decide to just reveal your secrets to the world.
Yeah, well, if it's going to go back to my old cash-in-hand days, I'm stuffed. Staying with Google-adjacent dystopian scenarios, Bruce, and the Mail are warning that San Francisco may have entered its apocalyptic death loops.
Yeah, and this is to do with a boom in working from home has trashed the local economy, whilst drugs and homelessness spiral thanks to soft-touch policing. Will Britain pay heed to this disturbing warning? Do you think it will?
I doubt it very much, to be honest. It sounds like Sadiq Khan is trying to usher it in London as fast as he possibly can, doesn't it? Part 3 is over. We can catch up now. We've got coming up in the final part. We don't want to lose time for this. Emma Watson goes astrological, a teacher with a novel approach to discipline, and we answer the question, is photography as an art form dead? See you in a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Hello, I'm Calvin Robinson. Do not miss my Common Sense Crusade Saturdays at 7 p.m. Join me for some in-depth discussions on faith. Is that not the start of the slippery slope? It's very much so. And the big moral questions of the day. I'm baffled.
You've got some nerve.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. For our final quarter, I'm Simon Evans. We have celebrity news now with Diane, and Emma Watson will thank literally anyone or anything ahead of J.K. Rowling for her success.
Yes, this title is in the Times. Emma Watson gives Saturn, yes, the planet, a nod as she marks her 33rd birthday. I mean, who'd have thought she had something in common with a big gas giant? She has said that she was away from Instagram for 4 months, and this is the idiotic crap that she returned to the social media platform with.
We've actually got an image of it. I think there she is.
That is a year old, because it's her and her Prada campaign. You know, maybe do some more work.
There we go. There's her thing covered in hieroglyphics.
TLDR.
This is 33, holy moly. Before 29, I hadn't even heard of a Saturn return. I have to say, I hadn't heard of one until now, and I'm nearly 58.
No, it's a receipt for
you look well.
I'm going to be getting my second Saturn return, presumably. Is it a thing that comes around every 33 years? Is that the idea?
I'm assuming that's because of the orbit of Saturn around
the planet.
I mean,
it did for Jesus, right? And Mozart. It is a bad day. It was a difficult age, 33, wasn't it?
Is Saturn the one with the ring round it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, that beautiful, very beautiful, big, lovely yellow thing.
Do you know how thick those rings are?
I don't know how to react to that.
Yeah, tiny.
Tiny?
Okay. Yeah. They're almost entirely one-dimensional. Two-dimensional. Two-dimensional.
Two-dimensional, not two-dimensional, one-dimensional.
Speaking of Emma. But, yes, seriously, I mean, she's mad. She's got 70 million followers, so I guess she's doing something right.
Oh, yes, clearly, that she is sacrificing her chickens on the correct altar. Well
this is what people like, isn't it, in their social media feed? They don't want people, making difficult, references to Schopenhauer or GDP figures from the South American...
No, they just want to know how many followers you've got.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, because that seems to be a sign that you're doing well, you're winning at life. There's many followers.
I'm telling you, it's astrology. It's catnip for chicks.
Okay.
Bruce! Fight Club news now in the Telegraph.
This is
rather
appalling.
limits what I can say about it, obviously.
This is appalling. A teacher has been sacked after she encouraged her pupils to fight each other. A substitute teacher in Texas has been sacked after she allegedly encouraged her students to fight in classroom butts. Natalie Garcia, who'd been employed since early March in a substitute role, was dismissed from Kimbrough Middle School on Thursday. She was getting them to fight. She was filming. them fighting.
Extraordinary.
Like, seriously.
I'm sorry, it's not
Do you
funny.
remember being at
Sorry.
school and getting into trouble for fighting?
Yes.
Also,
They would
she
try
can't spell Natalie. That's really annoying.
Well, I can't pronounce one.
No, you're right. You know, anyway.
So, yeah, local independent school district have described the teacher's actions as appalling and intolerable. I just think that's outrageous.
Yeah, it is outrageous. This is terrible.
It's the wrong kind of school. If it was Eton, that would be one thing, wouldn't it? If they were fighting, you know, proper old school, Lord Queensberry rules and so on, you know. That
like
would,
this.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, bare knuckle.
Yeah,
but I bet it wasn't like that. I bet they were pulling each other's hair and, you know...
But do you see that on social media when people, they don't stop the fight in the street or whatever, and people are being... Yeah, it's horrible. There was someone who seemed to only have 1.5 legs and was being battered with a crutch and no one was helping. Did you see that?
The best thing, though, was I think it was a Waffle House where a woman who was serving behind the counter, somebody threw a chair at her and she caught it with one hand.
Oh, wow.
Amazing. Wow. And flung it back out again. She's a hero. Photography news now, Diane. In The Guardian, and originality is no longer a black and white issue, it seems.
Yes, so this photograph, as we saw on the front page of The Guardian when we did our headline coverage earlier, a photographer admits that his prize-winning image was AI-generated. Now, of course, there is the image.
Yeah.
So it's sort of... He won the German artist, Boris Eldagsen, revealed on his website that he was not going to collect the award for Sony's World Photography Awards because he said, I was a little bit of a cheeky monkey. I think it's very cute. He called himself a cheeky monkey.
Right.
And he admitted to using this computer program to generate this image. Now, this obviously calls into question, well, is the art the image itself, or is it the concept that he created and then he used the AI to create it?
Well, he would have given it some prompt like a young woman with an older woman brushing her hair or something.
And then he had to choose the image to submit.
Yeah, but it's fairly obviously not in the same, you know, order of magnitude of skill and craft and expertise required to actually produce a photography like that, isn't it?
Well, true, but I am being devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Because at what point do you sort of say, well, what is art and what isn't?
Is this the same as if you were in the WI and you were in a cake competition and you didn't bake it, you bought one from Marks and Spencer's? Is that the same thing, or am I missing the point?
It's sort of the same thing.
Is it kind of variations on a theme?
It depends. Have you iced the cake?
No.
Well, you've just bought the cake and just plopped
Maybe
it
a dusting of something, yeah.
What I found slightly disturbing was that the picture was obviously AI-generated. I absolutely accept in 6 months' time it might not be possible to tell, but any good judge of a photography competition should have been able to see the woman's hand. It had that classic AI always struggles with hands. You can't see it now, but there are always giveaways if you have any idea. Anyway, we have one last quick. We've got 30 seconds to do this. Diane, this is the male birth control pill.
Potential breakthrough for male birth control pill as scientists discover gene that can temporarily switch off sperm. So you take a little tablet and suddenly all your sperms can't swim anymore. Ta-da!
Fantastic, and no diesel fumes were harmed in the process. So the show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Tuesday's front pages. The Telegraph have gone with single-sex schools can refuse trans pupils. They don't have to, but they can. Daily Mail, so which genius thought it was a good idea to terrify the whole country at 3 p.m. on a Sunday? Guardian have energy firms face curbs on forced meter installations. The Eye have Sunak under investigation by UK ethics watchdog over his wife's shares. The Daily Express, reasons to be cheerful. Economy is on the mend. Finally, the Daily Star, to boldly go where no visually challenged man has gone before. The dangers of space travel. That's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Diane Spencer and Bruce Devlin. Tune in at the same time tomorrow. I'll be joined by Roger Monkhouse and Josh Howie. And remember, if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, stay tuned for The Breakfast Show. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. Good night.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the people's channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes and Co.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit off.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you.
She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Dubes and Co. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News. The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Millions of youngsters loathe the very word maths. Our academic Prime Minister has decided everyone must do it until the age of 18. We'll discuss whether this is a good idea. We'll also look at the fact that 10% of our motorways are to remain so-called smart motorways. But does the government possibly leave itself open for legal challenge? And I'll be joined down the line by the trainer of Hill 16, the horse that fell badly at the first at Aintree on Saturday and subsequently had to be put down. I will ask tonight, did animal rising directly cause the death of that horse? That and much more, but first, let's get the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nigel, thank you. This is the latest from the GB newsroom. Rishi Sunak is under investigation by Parliament's ethics watchdog over a possible failure to declare an interest. Downing Street says the inquiries over claims he failed to tell MPs his wife might benefit from a major measure announced in last month's budget. She holds shares in Koru Kids, a childcare agency likely to gain financially from a drive to recruit more childminders. Number 10 says the Prime Minister will clarify how it was declared as a ministerial interest rather than to the Commons. Meanwhile, Mr Sunak has accepted the UK doesn't have enough teachers to deliver on his ambition to improve children's numeracy skills. He says an anti-maths mindset is costing the UK economy tens of billions of pounds every year and wants to ensure the subject is studied by all students in England up to the age of 18.
The UK is one of the least numerate countries in the developed world. More than 8 million adults have numeracy skills below those expected of a 9-year-old. And around a third of our young people don't pass maths GCSE. We make jokes about not being able to do maths. It's socially acceptable. We say things like, oh, maths, I can't do that, it's not for me, and everyone laughs. But we'd never make a joke like that about not being able to read.
NHS England has said nearly 200,000 hospital appointments and procedures had to be rescheduled due to the strike by junior doctors this month. It includes people who were waiting for operations and other treatments, as well as scans and follow-up appointments. Tens of thousands of workers staged a 96-hour strike in a dispute over pay between April 11th and 15th. It comes as the Prime Minister admitted it'll be a challenge to cut NHS waiting times because of industrial action, while also adding that he remains hopeful wait times can ultimately be cut. More than 5,000 people have crossed the English Channel in small boats this year. GB News can reveal around 120 people have arrived today, with 3 small boats intercepted by UK authorities. It's after a surge in small boat crossings as criminal people smuggling gangs take advantage of better weather conditions. A French court has cleared European plane maker Airbus and Air France of involuntary manslaughter, nearly 14 years after a plane travelling from Brazil to France crashed into the Atlantic Ocean. The trial was France's first ever for corporate manslaughter, with both firms pleading not guilty. It found several acts of negligence by both companies, but that wasn't enough for full liability for the crash. 228 people lost their lives on the flight travelling from Rio de Janeiro to Paris in June 2009. TV, online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn. You're with GB News. Now it's back to Nigel.
Good evening. Talk about out of touch. Well, of course, he was the head boy at Winchester. He went on to do incredibly well at university, and he is an academic. And I think completely out of touch with the fact that millions of young people loathe the very word maths. It just turns them off immediately. So the idea they should all do maths until the age of 18, I think, is frankly bonkers. After all, if they're not doing very well at maths at 16, what on earth makes you think they'll be any better at it by the age of 18? No, it'll lead to mass truancy, in my opinion. Now, when he talked about the fact that people need life skills after school, and that if you're not numerate, you're at a disadvantage, well, I agree with him there. Absolutely. And I think learning the basics, being numerate, I think those things are very important. When he talked about mortgages and interest rates and all of that, well, though that could be taught as life skills at school, just get the word maths out of it, because people think immediately of quadratic equations or pi or wherever else it may be, and they're never going to use that stuff in the whole of their lives. I think a lot more vocational training actually might be a better idea for 16 to 18s than going on doing maths. So I think the Prime Minister is hopelessly, completely out of touch on this issue. Well, tell me what you think. Tell me, is it a good idea? Let me know what you think. Farage at gbnews.uk. Now, I'm joined by Lord Kenneth Baker, former Education Secretary and something of a reformer, because in your time some big things happened. Yeah. The introduction of the national curriculum, and of course the merging of the old O-level and CSE into
absolutely right.
the GCSE.
All of that.
And as a reformer, you had quite some battles with the unions, yes. I remember, and getting change of any kind is difficult. Yeah. What is Rishi Sunak trying to do here?
I think what Rishi Sunak should be doing is talk about number, not maths. Children should be leaving school who are numerate, understand number, otherwise at a disadvantage. Now, in the schools I'm promoting, university technical colleges, some youngsters want to do A-level maths because they're going on to university or engineering. Which is fine. But most don't. We have core maths, which is half the level of an A-level. And this deals with a number. It makes it practical, because children at 18 must be